is Shayna Sexton. I'm from the Rose Hill, Ewing areas where I grew up, but I live in Rye Cove now. And I got saved about 3 years ago here at Ramey's Chapel, and I'm going to give my testimony. So I'm just going to start from the beginning. I grew up with a God-fearing mom who taught us about the Lord, taught us who Jesus was, taught us to pray, the importance of those things. We never really went to church a whole lot, just once in a blue moon here and there. When I got into high school, I would go some with my friends, but, I knew Jesus was real, and I knew that I was his child and those things, and I prayed, but I got older, and I just followed after what everybody else was doing. I followed after the things of the world, and I thought I knew best. And as I got into my young adult years, and I met Mason when I was about 19, and he was 22 or something. He had his own place. Didn't take long. I moved in with him, and we lived how we wanted to, and it was a party every weekend, and those things were fun for a short bit, but I always had that conviction because of how I was raised. I knew I wasn't living right. My mom and my grandparents would tell me every chance they got, when are y'all going to get married? If you're living together, you need to be married. And I agreed with them, but I just ignored it because I knew that, Mason didn't really think that way, and I didn't want anything to change. By the time we were both in our early 20s, we both had good jobs. We had bought our first house together, and we had friends, and we had fun, and we done whatever we wanted. And to anyone, you'd think, like we had a good life, and we were set. We'd done what we wanted, and I can say that I had everything that I thought I wanted, and I was the most miserable I've ever been in my life. And I was very depressed. I had a lot of anxiety. I was just a miserable person. I was a broken person, and I had that conviction always still. And sometimes it would get really strong. It was like I started into this cycle. My conviction would get strong about the way I was living. I knew it wasn't right. And I would think, okay, I'm going to change some things. And what I didn't realize at that point was I couldn't do that myself, and I was trying to. I would start, telling Mason, like, we need to be married now, or I'm moving out, and I'm not drinking no more. I'm tired of this stuff. I'm going to start doing what I know is right, and I would fail, and then I would go right back out to doing the same things because I was just like, well, that didn't work. And it was like a cycle over and over. The conviction would build up again. I would get back to, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to do what's right. I would fail over and over. And I just got so tired. And then I found out I was pregnant with Lucas. And I thought, oh, my goodness, I'm going to be a terrible mother. I am in no place to be someone's mother. And I thought me and Mason aren't going to make it. I'm going to do this on my own. And I was scared. And that is when I was like, something has to change before this baby comes. Like, I don't know what to do. I remember, actually, I do remember one time, this was before Lucas, I was praying to God. I was in my car, and I was saying, well, God, I tried. I really tried. But I was saying this to him. I can't be a Christian. It's impossible. I've tried, and I've decided it's turned out that it's impossible for me. So I literally was hopeless at that point. Then found out I was pregnant with Lucas, scared about that. And I was really just searching for something. I was looking for something. I knew I couldn't do it myself. I didn't know what I needed to do. Sophie had come to this church maybe once or so with Deb, I think. She had mentioned it to me, and she asked me to come. And so I came, and I was a little bit reluctant because, I didn't go to church very much growing up. And when I did, honestly, it felt uncomfortable to me. It was, I felt out of place. I was basically just like holding my breath until it was over, and then could walk out of there and be like, phew, okay, done my Christian duty. I went to church, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And but this time was different, I think, because I came looking for something. I knew I needed something. I knew something was missing. And this church was different than any church I'd ever been to. You guys were so inviting and loving, and I really got a lot out of coming here. And I didn't come consistently until after Lucas was born, but I come here and there. And I do remember the day that I come to the altar. I think it might have been a Sunday morning service. I don't remember exactly what day it was, but I think Lucas was a few months old. And y'all had done an altar call, and I felt it so strong. I knew I needed to come. I knew that I needed to give my heart to Jesus, and that I hadn't been, living how I should. And I got up and I came to the altar, and I don't remember if I was praying in my head or if I was praying out loud or what, but I was crying and I was saying, God, I've tried and I'm tired and I can't do this myself. I literally fail every time. Like, I can't do it. I need you to do it. I need you to come into my life, and I need things to change. And I don't know how long I was there or what all I said, but I remember as soon as I got up, it was just like, I didn't realize how burdened down I was, how weighted down I was, until I got up from the altar, and it was like, I felt like I was floating. Like, I felt like the weight was just lifted right off me. And I remember I went back and I sat down next to Sophie, and she said, how do you feel? And I said, I feel so light. And she might have thought I was crazy and didn't know what I was talking about, but like, that was it. I felt light as a feather, like everything had just been lifted off of me. And no, everything didn't just immediately change right then. I still had sin in my life. I still had things that I was struggling with. But at that point, I had said yes to Jesus, and I had asked him into my heart. And that was the moment. He's not going to barge in, and he's not going to force his way in. You have to make that choice, and you have to say, Jesus, I need you, and invite him into your heart. And that is the moment after that he can start doing his work in you. And he did. And there was many things. It was maybe months later, I don't remember exactly, but I remember praying, God, I've given this to you. I've invited you into my heart. Like, I know that I'm saved now, and I'm reading my Bible, and I'm praying, and I'm seeking you. And like, why am I still depressed? Why do I still feel this way? Like, I can't get out from under this sadness, and like, I don't even have anything to be sad about. And he spoke to me in that moment. He said, it's the music that you're listening to. He said, you need to stop listening to the music. And I knew I needed to stop listening to the music. I'd been convicted over it, but I just hadn't been able to let it go. I didn't realize it was the reason that I was depressed, but after he told me that, and I was learning more about the Lord and things, it was like, okay, that makes sense. I'm literally speaking these lyrics. I'm singing along to these songs about depression and anxiety and all this, and I'm like speaking that over my life. And so it was after that, I decided, okay, I can't listen to this music anymore, and it was like, I remember saying, God, I don't want to let this go, but I know I need to. And so can you change my mind about this? Can you, make me not want to? And I turned my radio to 106.9, and it's still on 106.9. I don't take it off there unless I'm listening to a song on my phone. But it wasn't very long, and just listening to the uplifting music and not having that other junk, I noticed a huge change, and it wasn't long at all. I had no depression. I was happy. I had that sadness had to go, because that's a spirit, and I was inviting it in by listening to that music and saying those words. And, that was one of many things that I had to say, God, I know this is a sin, and I know this is wrong, but I don't want to let it go, and I need you to take it from me. I need you to make me not want I like make your desires my desires. And he did, and he has, and he still is. But I remember after that, I was so on fire for God. My life was changing. Everything was getting better, and I was seeking the Lord. I wanted more of him, and I started to pray, Lord, I want a closer walk with you, and God, I want I want my faith to grow and those things. And it was probably like the next week after I had prayed that, my son, who was about a year and a half at that point, he started having seizures. And I didn't know what it was at first. We had our suspicions, and we took him to the doctor, and, they had told us, I didn't have a video of it. He wasn't doing it super often. All I could do was explain to them what was happening. And, they were like, well, if you think that's what it is, we can set him up with the neurologist, and they can look at him and decide. And she said, but I'm going to be honest, it's going to probably take months to get you an appointment, because it's really hard to get in with them. And I was like, oh, goodness. So we went home, and, we waited a little while, but it was like every day his seizures were getting worse. And I was calling, like, I haven't heard anything. And I started to pray, God, make a way. Let us get seen soon. Let us have an appointment soon. And sure enough, they called me, and they said, somebody had canceled. Do you want to come in? And I was like, yes. So we got to go in, and I was praying on the way, like, God, let us get answers today. Like, just whatever needs to happen, let it happen in the appointment. And Lucas actually had a seizure in front of the neurologist at the appointment. And I was happy about that, because they could see what was happening. And she said, yeah, it looks like seizures to me, she said, but we can't say anything for sure until he has a test done. He's got to get an EEG. That will determine. And she said, like, I'm going to put an order in for you to get your EEG at Johnson City. And she said they'll just call you when a bed is available, and they can fit you in. And so I was like, okay. We went home. We waited. Every day seizures were getting worse. Just having more and more. They were lasting longer each time. And I was calling every week, like, hey, haven't heard anything. This is what he's doing. This is what's getting worse. And she kept checking for me. Well, they just don't have a bed. And finally, one day, he had, like, they call them cluster seizures. And he had 5 back to back. And I didn't know what to do. I was freaking out. I called her back. I was like, oh, and at this point, we had also taken him on our own once, I think, to the ER. And they told us, the neurologist wouldn't even come in the room to see us. He said, it's not seizures. Kids just do weird things. We can get you your test, but it's going to be on our time and when you can be fit in, and we're not, like, pushing nothing and urging nothing. And so then one day he had the cluster seizures, and I called, and I said, like, what do I do? Like, no one's helping us, and I'm not hearing anything. He's not had his test. And she said, hang on, let me call. And she called me back, and she said, the neurologist who's on call at the ER tonight, he has agreed to do your test if you pack your bag and go now. And so we packed our bag, and we went back to Johnson City, and they admitted us. They done his test, and it was rough. All these leads and basically tape around your head, and he hated that, and he was miserable. He had to stay in the bed. It was a 24-hour test. He had to stay in the bed, and he hated that. And by hour 12, he was inconsolable. I was inconsolable. He was literally screaming so hard. For the last, hour, he screamed and fought to get that stuff off his head. His eyes were closed. He was so wore out, but he was still screaming and screaming. And, oh, gosh, I didn't know what to do, and I felt so bad. And me and Mason was begging them, can we take it off? Isn't 12 hours enough? Like, don't you have what you need? And they were saying no. Like, even if we wanted to take it off, the only people who was allowed to take the leads off, they went home for the night. They're not even here. They won't be back till the morning. And we was just begging them, like, please, like, let's just take it off. And they said, we're just going to have to sedate him. And that broke my heart. I didn't want more meds. I didn't want to do that. And I the doctor left the room to go and get the meds to sedate him, and I started to pray and say, God, please calm him down. Please just give us peace. Please let something happen, like let him fall asleep. Just, I don't want to sedate him. Let us be able to finish this test and they get what they need. And before the doctor got back into the room, Lucas had fell asleep. And so praise the Lord for that. We got the test done. They come back in the morning and said, yeah, it's seizures. He has epilepsy. So we started then on a medication. They said this is going to be trial and error, and we're going to just try medicines until they work. We tried the first one, gave it a few weeks. His seizures were just getting worse and worse. So we took that one away. We tried a different one. Same thing, just getting worse and worse. Nothing was helping. At this point, he was having like 10 to 15 seizures a day, sometimes more than that. Medicines weren't working. They had given us rescue meds for when he was having cluster seizures, and the rescue meds wouldn't work. We was taking him, rushing him to the ER in the middle of the night, like once a week it felt like. And add something, something that's important to share about Lucas's testimony is, they had told us in the beginning, sometimes kids have this and they grow out of it. It's very common for them to grow out of it. And then his got so severe, they started to say, his epilepsy is so severe that this is going to be lifelong for him. And then they had wanted us to look into implants because they said that's just going to be much easier and better for him than having all these medicines every day. And I told them, I said, we're not interested in implants. God has already told me that this is not lifelong for him. He's going to be healed. And we started having regular checkups with the neurologist. And, every time he would say, like, so how is he doing development-wise? And I would, be listing off all these good things. I'd be like, he's learning his numbers and he knows his colors and he's doing this and this. And he'd be like, oh, yeah, okay. He's like, but, what about things that he used to do, but he's not doing as well anymore or not doing at all anymore, or, things that you think he should be doing that he's not doing yet? And I'm like, no, there's nothing. And he's just blown away every time. He's like, as severe as his seizures were and as long as it took us to get them under control, he should have deficits. He told me that. And he said that he should not be developing at a normal pace. He should be behind. And every time, we still have checkups. We went a few weeks ago, and he was still talking about just how, he said, Lucas is such a unique case. And that is God. That's literally God. And I was just worried and begging God to take the trial the whole time and just let this end. But look at what he's done through it. And I can tell you right now, I would not have the faith that I have. I can get better, and God is still working on me every single day. But I would not be where I am in my relationship with him today if it was not for everything that we've had to go through, everything that I've been able to watch God bring us through, every prayer that he has answered right in front of my eyes. That has been so helpful to me. So, don't wish the trials away. Ask God, what do you want me to learn in this? That should be the first thing. And that's not something that I always think of. It's definitely not the first thing that I start asking when something goes wrong and I start going through a trial. But that is good to remember. Ask God, what are you trying to teach me in this? Don't let me miss it. The longer that we just try and get rid of the trial and ask God to take it from us, we're not listening. We got to listen and see what he's trying to teach us through it, and that'll probably make our trial go a lot quicker too. Yes. So this was actually one of the times that we was rushing him to the ER in the middle of the night because he was having cluster seizures, and Mason was driving, and I was sitting in the back with Lucas, and I was praying. I just felt hopeless. I was like, God, how long is this going to go on? At that point, I kind of, because of Bob's preaching and what I had learned, I was like, okay, I prayed for God to give me a closer walk and grow my faith. I know he's doing something here. But I was tired, and Lucas was tired, and I was praying, God, please just like give me hope. Let me know like you are here with us. You have your hand on Lucas. Everything is going to be okay. And this song come on the radio, and it was on 106.9, and I know every song that comes on there because I listen to it so much. And I had never heard this song on there before. I never heard the song at all before, but I remember the chorus was saying, by his stripes we are healed. And in that moment, that gave me peace, and I thought, okay, like, thank you for that, Lord. Everything's going to be okay, And we went on to the hospital, and I think it was the next day, we were still at the hospital, and my mom had texted me, and she was just, trying to lift me up, trying to encourage me, remind me of God's word and that he's with us and all that. And at the end of her message, she said, by his stripes we are healed, and Lucas is going to be healed. And I thought, okay, like, that's confirmation to me. I hear you, God. Like, Lucas is going to be healed. And then that same day, we got to go home, and we had just got home, and Mason's mom had texted me. And she's a nurse practitioner, and she said, I have a patient who is a preacher, and I've reached out to him, asked him to pray for Lucas and you guys, and he asked me to forward you this message. And he was saying like he felt led to share this verse with me, and he didn't write the verse out, he just put the verse. So I got my Bible and looked it up, and it was Isaiah 53, and the last few words is, by his stripes we are healed. And that was just like, I was like, I don't care what happens, like, God has given me peace in this situation. He has spoken to me these 3 times in 2 days. Lucas is going to be healed, and that has carried us through all of this. It really has. Well, so he had his test in April, and we started on medicine in April, and it took till, I would say, maybe like December or January before we were able to have a combination that reduced his seizures enough where he was just having like 1 a day, or one, he'd go a few days and not have any. So, I mean, it took a long time. Well, praise the Lord, Lucas has not had a seizure in, I would say, a month and a half. Mm-hmm. I think one of the best things to remember is that it's God's way and God's timing and not yours. And it's easy to get frustrated when it's not happening when you want it to, or even how you want it to. But like, God's ways are above our ways, and he can see down the road, and, he knows better than we do. And it's easy to kind of feel like sometimes we know best, but you got to trust God's timing and his way. And the best thing that you can do is, just live your life in front of whoever it is that you're trying to get to accept God or come into the church or whatever it may be. Like, show them with your life and with your words and your actions. I think, that speaks louder than anything that we could try and tell them. And yeah, just do not give up, because I will say, praying for my brother to come in right when God was about to move was when things got the darkest, and it was the hardest. But you got to hold on, and you can't dwell on what's happening in front of you. You got to get in that word and remind yourself of God's promises, and that's where you get your hope through the trials and things. Stay in your word and don't dwell on what's in front of you, and God will move. Honestly, I mean, in every aspect I could do more, but I think that I know that I get nervous and I jumble my words and stuff, but when I'm just talking to Sophie or someone that I'm comfortable with, like, I feel like God has given me some wisdom, and I can, he helps my words flow so good. Like, I feel like, and then when I talk to my brother and stuff, like, when I feel like I can, not that I should be a teacher, but like I enjoy that so much, just what God has given me and giving that to somebody else who might not know it yet, and like seeing that click for them, like, oh, that, that's good. Like, it's nothing that I've done, and it's nothing, like, I'm not saying I'm smart or anything, but like, I love that. I think that I could share that more with people, and I think that would be maybe a direction, if God wanted me to go in, that he could really help me do some work in.